sending you the bill after we're done, inshallah. Okay. So I just want you to understand how significant this is. This is the kind of stuff that when you are about to start something huge, like building a multi-billion-dollar company, you find a coach who only takes 10 students and who charges you $25,000 per session. He sits with you for a few hours and he says, get out of here, go do what I just showed you how to do. I'm serious. And if you don't do it, he kicks you out. He doesn't care if you are a billionaire. That's the kind of guy. He just died about 2 months ago. So the bottom line is, this is very important stuff. I hope you take it for what it's worth. That's all I'm going to tell you. And if you don't, it won't make a difference to me. And a good thing, by the way, when he taught it to me, I attended it with him before I went on the road teaching it. He said to us, he gave me permission and a few people in the class. He said, take this and teach it to the world. There's no copyrights. There's nothing. He said, I want this to be my legacy to the world. I want to share it. So I'm probably the only one who took him up on his offer, and I took it on the road. I taught it to thousands of people in the last 20 years. Alhamdulillah, many of them Muslims. So let me start with one simple question. What does quantum leap mean? Before you answer, the King of Jordan on TV not long ago said he gave the wrong meaning to it. He used it in the wrong way. So if I said to you quantum leap, use it in a sentence. A king who was raised in the top colleges in England and the United States made a mistake. And I've heard other people in high places make a mistake. So before you answer, think, what does quantum leap mean? Don't get scared. You know, if you're wrong, big deal. Just take a shot at it. What do you think quantum leap means? If I say to you, you need to take a quantum leap in your life, what do you think when I say that to you? Yeah. No, the first word you said is the most common one. Most people think, and that's how the king used it, we are making a quantum leap in our progress towards blah, 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 blah. Okay? That's the common use of the phrase quantum leap. That quantum means big, like the way it sounds, quantum comes like that, right? Actually, quantum means infinitesimal, small, little, tiny. It comes from quantum physics. What's quantum physics? It's the physics of neutrons and electrons and subelectrons and positrons and all that stuff. I mean, anybody who ever took physics knows that. And yet, in society, most people use the phrase quantum leap the wrong way. So that's the first lesson today. Yes, sister, you had a question in the back? Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Quantum leap is a course about how to take small steps towards building a magnificent life. That's really all there is to it. How to take quantum leaps. So we're not going to be talking about taking big leaps. We're going to be talking about doing small, little, tiny things here and there that will make a huge difference, kind of like a lever that will make a huge difference in your life. Okay? So that's the name of the course. So the first concept that I'm going to discuss with you today is the concept of counterbalanced harmonious life. So if I ask you the following question, if I say to you, what does balanced life mean? You hear people saying, I need life balance. You hear people saying that? And you say to them, oh, like, what is that? And they say, I just want life balance. Is there such a thing? Have you ever met somebody say, oh my God, he's got life balance? Like you're probably looking at me and say, oh, Brother Abbasi probably has life balance. Balance. He's got kids, wife, business, money, cars. He's got it all. Balance. Is that really what balance is? What do you think? When you hear somebody, do you ever see somebody and say this person has balance in their life? And if they do, why so? Why do you think they do? All right. Do you want to take a shot at it? Any one of you? What do you think? Okay? So what if what if you got a problem with your health and then somebody says to you, you need to balance your health? So like, does balance mean that you go by the checkout counter at the supermarket maybe 20 times a month, and you pass by a Kit Kat and you look at it and say, nope, I got life balance, I'm not gonna touch it? Yeah, yeah, you stole my thunder. Real balance, there's no balance. No one on earth has balance. حياة متوازنة 100% ما فيش. However, there are people that have the appearance of balance in their life. They look like they got balance. Okay? So if there is no such thing as balance, but they look like they have balance, why? Why do they look like they're balanced? Think about some of your friends, how some of them seem very cool, and things that are always under control and nothing seems to bother them. And you say, how do they do that? So here's the answer. There is no balance. What there is constant micro counter balancing that appears to be balance. In other words, there are people that have a tire that goes down in pressure. They look and there are 3 tires with 34 pounds, and the third one is 32. They don't wait until tomorrow. They go today to the gas station and they make it 34. So they always look like their car is balanced, their life is balanced, their food is balanced, everything's balanced. All the difference between you and them is they don't wait long before they rebalance. You understand the difference? People who take too long to balance, when they fall out of balance, they're all around us. People who see something broken, later on we're going to learn from the 7 Habits from Stephen Covey. We're going to learn, and I touched on it in one of the classes, where there is urgent, important, the 4 quadrants of. And we're going to talk about urgent, important. Urgent, important needs to be done right now. When you do take care of it right now and you don't wait too long, you appear to have balance because you didn't wait too long to fix that flat tire or that cough that you have, or that blemish that may turn out to be melanoma, or whatever the heck it might be. If you don't wait and you take care of it, the whole world will think you have balance, but nobody does balance. We all, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. Allah Azza wa Jal says, from the moment you're born until the day you die, you're going to be going into crisis and coming out of crisis. That's it. This is life. If you don't like it, then please go to the akhirah. Everything will be cool there. Wait up. You're going to get there somehow. Just hope that, inshallah, you're a good believer and that you become something that you get a ticket into Jannah, inshallah. I hope and pray that we are all among them, inshallah. But you see what I mean? If you don't like it here, inshallah, you would like it there. Because there's no kabad. Things are different there. Okay? All right. So I'm going to dwell a little bit on this. Can we turn off the light here on this side? Okay. So here's how people live. Most people's lives look exactly like what you see on top. Okay, from the day I'm born until about like maybe 21, 22, 23, it's all about learning. You're a student. How much work do you do? Almost nothing. Maybe I volunteer, maybe I work part-time at a McDonald's flipping burgers or whatever. But really, minor work. You're not expected to work when you're 16. You're supposed to get a 800 on your SAT. I mean, that's your job, right? Oh, and then you graduate. So now, mabruk, now you get to go in the job market, you get a job, and now you spend the best years of your life working your butt off every day from morning until night. You come home and you repeat the process every day, until one day there's this thing called retirement. By the way, I've been through all of these phases. So one day you wake up and you're retired and nobody needs your services. And by the way, the majority of people die within 2 years of retirement because they feel used up. They feel like nobody needs them anymore. Unless they find a second career, which is what I did. But most people, once they retire after 65 in this country, give them 2 years and they're dead. Because they feel useless. They feel like they have nothing to offer. Now, the lucky ones who have money and who get to find a condo in Florida, like many of the retirees do, and they find somebody to teach them how to play golf. It's time to play. There's only one problem. Their health looks like crap now. Now they have arthritis, they can't see well, their back is curving, they're losing their energy. So when it's time to play, you don't have the physical energy to play. When you had all the power to play and to do whatever you wanted to do, you were too busy working. So that one day, when you retire, you get to, I'm using play here as a euphemism for whatever good you want to do. It's just a placeholder. So here's a question. Who in the world designed this lifestyle? Where did it come from? We're all living it. Exactly. This is the stupid capitalist system. Before this, life was different. People used to do all these three things at the same time. If you read the book by Al-Mawardi, Adab ad-Din wa ad-Dunya, it's a classic. Hundreds of years ago written. And in it, all he talks about is the importance of learning to the day you die. And Hadith Rasul, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, sallu ala Rasulullah. اطلب العلم من المهدي إلى اللحد. Seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave. So ilm is not just for a few years, nor is playing when you can't play. When you're always constipated, excuse my French, when your back is curving, when you have no power, no energy, nobody to play with, they're all dead. When my father passed away in January, none of his friends are left. They all died years ago. Oh, and then like the learning time. Learning time when your brain is still not developed. You're supposed to catch all that learning somewhere between the age of 4, 5, 6. Well, my granddaughter is 2.5. She's already in school. I mean, nowadays we feel like we want to just take them out and shove them in school somehow. It's like, wallahi, it's unbelievable. I'm like, well, how early does somebody have to be in school? So nowadays we start them really early. Okay, 2, 3, it doesn't matter. Shove them in school. And then one day they come out and everybody's clapping. Okay, they graduated. Now to a lot of people, learning stops. That's it. I know people who haven't read a single book from the day they graduated from college. And I've heard it from very important people. From doctors, I've heard it from imams, I've heard it from you name it. Sometimes I feel embarrassed to even mention a book. Like everybody now is really like so amazed. How could the Israelis do this? And I'm like, do you know that there's actually a book written by 2 Israelis that came out about 20 years ago? You may want to write its name down and get a copy. I almost bought all the copies on Amazon. I want to give them away. But if there's any copies left, you could probably get a new one for about $19, used one for about $5. It's called Startup Nation. You know how when you do a business, it's called a startup, right? How about if somebody explains to you how this country called Israel, how it started, and they talk about the 3 principles upon which the nation was founded. Can I give them to you quickly? But the book elaborates. Number 1, no shame. I'm not kidding you. فيش حياة بالمرة. بستحوش بالمرة. There's no shame in doing anything. Number 2, extreme belligerence. وقاحة لا نهائية. They are willing to die, to lie. عينك عينك. I mean, something could be happening right in front of you, and you say it's blue, and they say it's red. They do not believe. There's no logic. Extreme belligerence. Okay? And there's one more. What's the other one? Oh, no fear. They have this concept called co-optation. Their soldiers don't fear. No, they're afraid. They're wearing diapers because they're afraid to pee on themselves. I mean, I'm not kidding you. They are so scared that one single fighter can knock down 3 tanks and mow the rest of them like 1, 2, 3. This is amazing. Four fighters went into an entire kibbutz, an entire settlement, surrounded with tanks and armored vehicles and everything, and they all ran away. And this was published in Ma'arif by a citizen, one of the people that lived in the settlement. She gave testimony. She said, we thought they were going to protect us. They ran away and left us alone. She said, we walked on foot. And this was 5 hours after the war started on October 7th. My point is, when we say fearless, I don't mean they don't fear. What I mean is, when they are faced with a situation, they do something in social science, we call it co-optation. When you co-opt somebody, it's like you take her over. So if they have a company and a small company starts doing what they're doing, they'll go buy it, or they'll destroy it, or they'll do something to it, and that's it. They don't sit there and say, oh my God, they're going to take our business. Oh my God, what should we do? Oh my God. No, they'll just crush it. So whatever situation comes in their way, if a country, for instance, challenges them, they'll destroy it. It's that simple. I'm not making this stuff up. This is published stuff. It's in a book written by them saying, haha, here's how we did it. And you get to read up and understand. Here's the problem. We don't read. We are the one ummah, unfortunately. I'm talking about the Arabs, by the way. When I say we, I'm talking about the Arab, mainly the Arab. We are the least reading ummah, even though we are the ummah of Iqra. Our book started with Iqra. How many people? Iqra. It just blows my mind. And I'm not talking, wallahi, I'm not talking about lay people, like my mother, rahimahullah, or like my father. I'm not talking about those. I'm even talking about people, doctors and engineers and smart people who, when they sit in a meeting, like if I sit with them in a board meeting, oh, they have a lot to say. And I sit there and I'm quiet. And at some point I may say something and they'll challenge me. And I have to answer back and say, like, okay, this is in the realm of social science or social movement theory or whatever. Like, how many courses have you taken in social movement theory? How many books have you read in social movement theory? What do you know about social movement theory? What do you know about anything? So would you please let me talk and try to learn something? I have a PhD in this. Oh, all of a sudden they fall back. They fall on their back. This is sad. Wallahi, I never want to talk like that. But sometimes you sit in front of somebody who hasn't read a book in 20, 30 years, and they pontificate and talk like they know what they're talking about. I'm like, please. You know what Imam al-Ghazali called these people? These are people with unconscious incompetence. He calls it al-jahl al-murakkab. We're going to touch on it later on. الجهل المركب أن لا تعلم أنك لا تعلم. يعني واحد حمار مش عارف إنه حمار. I'm sorry, wallahi, that's what it is. And there are so many of them around. And many times we're too polite to stop them. So we just sit there and bite our tongue and try to like not say something. And honestly, I've had it. I made a decision very, very recently. And I told Wa'il and I told a lot of people, I said, I've had it to these people. They've been leading our community in the wrong direction. They made it look like our mission in life is to build 4 walls and a ceiling, call it a masjid, and we're done. Okay, what's the next step? Here they are trampling all over us. Students in college are being, you see what's going on. Professors, students, employees, doctors. I just heard about a doctor who got fired. Care cannot handle what's going on. What have we done to prepare for this? That's my question. This has been going on for years. Look, at least since September 11. Before September 11, I'm not going to blame anybody because we were all like having a good time. After September 11, with the backlash, with the backlash that we suffered. Don't you think we should have learned something to prepare for this? We haven't. I don't know what got me on this bunny trail, but let's move on. So life, the way it's designed by the capitalist system, is you go to school, you get a degree, you go out there and work. If you don't go to school, you're still going to work. It's not like you get a break. You're still going to work, except now you're going to be a laborer. You're going to be, you're not going to have a white-collar job. You're going to have a blue-collar job. Okay? Fine. Until one day, after you've already literally broken down your body and you're in your mid-60s, then now you get permission to retire on a meager income. Wallahi, the income that my father was getting in his retirement, it would not last 3 days in his hand. If I wasn't there to support him, alhamdulillah that I was, he would have lived the last 20, 30 years of his life as a pauper, as a poor man. But think of how many people are like him who don't have a son who can support them. Or my father left 7 of us, so alhamdulillah, any one of us could have supported him. But you see my point? So this is, unfortunately, this is life the way it's designed. And hopefully what I'm going to try to teach you is how to live a life where you can do the learning, working, and playing at the same time. Not to wait and defer doing the good stuff until later on when you no longer can do it. Okay? That's all there is to it. You will have these pages. There's more nuance in there. You can read it. You can ask, come back and ask questions. What happened? So here I'm introducing you to the concept of counterbalanced harmonious life. So harmony in your life comes from counterbalancing, not from no flat tires. In other words, you're gonna have times when you're gonna go out of balance. You're gonna go by that checkout counter. You're gonna look at that Milky Way bar, chocolate bar, or whatever, and you're gonna grab it, even though you're not on diet. You're gonna stuff it in your mouth, and you're gonna say, "Heck, I just fell off balance." And then for the next 6 months, you don't touch Kit Kat. It's that simple. It doesn't mean that you never, ever put a piece of chocolate in your mouth. That's not balance. That's not possible. You understand? So that's the difference. It's a stupid example, but it actually illustrates what it means to theoretically to have balance. Theoretically means you never touch a piece of chocolate in your life. In real life, you touch it and then you go back into balance. It's that simple. Okay? So to have this kind of harmonious life, it has 4 parts. The first one is perspective. You never heard me use this word before. In the last course, I may have mentioned it once or twice, but perspective is how you see the world. There are people that their perspective is like they're wearing thick black glasses. All they see is doom and gloom and bad stuff. They're called black hat thinkers in psychology. They have a name for them. Everything they see in their mind, they think of a way that it could go wrong constantly. Okay? So perspective is how you see the world. Now, let me ask you a question. And this comes from a khutbah that Sheikh Mohammad Musa gave last week. No, actually, this Friday, that anybody who knows Arabic should go look it up and listen to it. And in the khutbah, he asked the following question. He says, do we perform tawakkul ala Allah correctly? When we say, I depend on Allah, ana mutawakkil ala Allah. And he raises a question and he says, how do you know that you are or you are not? Because you can't just guess at it. There has to be indicators of whether you are mutawakkil or not. So he gives a few tips. He says, if you are mutawakkil, then your outlook on life is positive. Because you know everything is in the hands of Allah Azza wa Jal, and ultimately things will fall in place. And Allah Azza wa Jal tells us in the Quran that even at the end of time, that there will be a khilafah rashida, ala minhaj al-nubuwwah, and all of that. Prophet ﷺ, this in social science language or in business language, we call it visioning, the ability to see the future. Prophet ﷺ says, Wallahi, and he rarely swore, لَيَسِيرَنَّ السَّائِرِ مِنْ صَنْعَاءَ إِلَى حَضْرَمَوْتَ لَا يَخَافَنَّ إِلَّا اللَّهَ وَالذِّئْبَ عَلَى غَنَمِهِ. At a time when the Muslims could not even guarantee their safety for the next hour, he said to them that there shall be a day when the traveler would go from Sana'a, the capital of Yemen, to Hadramaut, a very far place near Oman, where Oman is now, fearing no one except Allah might do something, like some, rain, lightning, something. And maybe a wolf will come by and take one of his sheep. Other than that, there would be total safety. That's a very optimistic perspective. That the Prophet is, of course, and there is the hadith that says, بَشِّرُوا وَلَا تُنَفِّرُوا وَيَسِّرُوا وَلَا تُعَسِّرُوا. Give glad tidings, don't give bad tidings. The sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is all about glad tidings. It's all about a better future. So when we are talking about a perspective, and we're talking about tawakkul ala Allah, if you don't have a positive perspective, you're not mutawakkil ala Allah. It means you're doubting the ability of Allah Azza wa Jal, astaghfirullah, and you're doubting your own abilities, you see. So when we talk about perspective, I'm going to talk about it in more detail, but that's the first thing. You need to have the correct perspective on life. If you don't have a correct perspective, you're going to make big mistakes and you're going to have a miserable life. So we're going to talk about what is the proper perspective to have. This will not finish in one day. I may take the next 15, 20 weeks to go through this. This is huge. I usually teach it in 16 hours, 2 days, 8 hours each, with only one break in the middle. And like really fast and to adults. I'm slowing it down for you because you've never heard anybody talk like I'm talking right now. Have you? Have you ever heard anybody talk about perspective and counterbalance? And have you ever? This is not the kind of stuff that you can buy for $200. I'm not kidding, folks. I'm telling you, this is the kind of stuff that people learn at CEO levels. When the CEO of BlackRock wants to balance his life, he sits in a class in front of a guy like me who sits there and says, let me show you how to put your life together. Because he's got money, he's got a wife, he's got kids, but he's miserable. And many of them commit suicide because of how miserable they are. Is the example of Kate Spade far away from us? You ladies, you know Kate Spade, right? Yeah. Was she short on success? Do you think she needed money? Is there a mall you go to that doesn't have Kate Spade? Boys, Kate Spade is kind of like Abercrombie and Finch, whatever it is. It's one of those boutiques. Actually, it's more boutique than that. What happened to her? Bye-bye. She's gone. You see, so people like her, if they're smart, before they kick the bucket, to use some euphemism here, they go into a class like this. That's what I'm trying to tell you. All right, so what's the next thing? Oh, personal leadership and purpose. We talked about that a little bit in the last course, but I'm going to give you a lot more about how to have purpose in life, how to go about putting it together, how to come up with your own set of values, your beliefs, your perspective, all of these things together. Big stuff. I mean, this alone, I spent a half a day on it, on this item alone. The third one is disciplines and habits. What's the difference between discipline and habit? A discipline is made up of a collection of habits. So if I say, for instance, I'm just going to give you examples to get ahead of myself a little bit. If I say to you, you need some health discipline, and you say to me, oh, I'm on a diet. I say, okay, that's one leg of a table. What are the other 2 or 3 legs? You say, oh, there are other legs? Yeah, there's one called exercise. Oh, okay. And there's another one called stress management. Oh, because if I'm stressed out, it doesn't matter if I'm eating healthy or if I'm dieting. You see what I'm saying? So you need 3 habits, at least, to make one single discipline. So I'm going to teach you 6 disciplines times 3 habits. That's 18 habits that you need to introduce in your life to have an amazing life. And by the way, the good news is you don't need all of them at the same time. You get to pick. Think of it as the spokes of a wheel. Have you ever seen a bicycle wheel? What does it have going from the center to the side? So spokes, right? They're called spokes. You look at it, and if there's one damaged, what do? You go to the bike shop and you say, can you change this? So they charge you $5, they take it out, they put another one. So your life is like a wheel. It's got spokes in it. And some of them are damaged really bad. Some of them are strong, some are weak, some are missing. They're not even there. And you get to learn how to input that one. You're not going to go work on one that's already strong and healthy and doing fine and try to make it better when you have one that's missing altogether. So we're going to be talking about 6 disciplines, at least 3 habits under each discipline. I just gave you an example. What are the 3 habits under the health discipline? Diet, exercise, and stress management. Okay? So then I can teach you financial disciplines. I can teach you learning disciplines. There's 6 of them. 6 times 3 is 18. And that will keep us busy for a couple of days. The last thing we're going to learn is the importance of relationships. No one can be happy or successful without having certain key relationships with certain important key people in their life. For us Muslims, starts with the parents, and then there is if you're a father, your children, your brothers, your sisters, you get to have a circle around you of the most important relationships, and the world can wait because you start with those. You develop those relationships, you nurture them, you make sure they're strong, and then if you have time left, you worry about the rest of the world. A lot of people have stronger relationships with total strangers than they have with their daughter, their son, their brother, their sister. And I'm going to teach you, if we have time, very quick and easy method to repair damaged relationships. How many of us have damaged relationships? Raise your hand. Come on. Everyone does. We all have damaged relationships. No, I'm talking about immediate family where it really matters. Okay? A sister you haven't spoken to, a brother you haven't spoken to, akal alay al-earth. I mean, there's all kinds of stories out there. I'm going to teach you a very easy method that you can use to repair a damaged relationship. And it's not a one-shot deal. It has steps in it. So you do step 1, step 2. So we'll talk about that, inshallah. So these are the 4 major areas that we are going to cover. And that's basically the quantum leap model that I'm going to be teaching you. So this is further elaboration on the 3 boxes, where most people live in the time of learning box, and they're doing nothing in the other 2. Then they go into the time of work box, where there is no more learning and no time for playing. And finally, it's time to play. Except many times, there's no health, no time. There's time, but there's no health, no money, and maybe everybody you ever wanted to play with is gone. Wow. That's very depressing. So my class is not to show you what problem we have in society. It's to show you how to get out of it. And if you understand the concept, it's not going to happen tomorrow. You're not going to go quit and say, I'm not going to work anymore. I'm just going to play. And Muhammad said, it's not going to happen. So what it all adds up to, read at the bottom, is an imbalance among the time spent learning, time spent working, time spent playing. And it is this approach that helps turn your life into very definite or finite boxes. You're living in boxes. You get out of one box, you get into the other one. That's what it is. Life of boxes. See if you can print the presentation that I sent you. See if you can print it out. Print it on paper, bring it on paper, and bring a pen with you so that when I'm explaining stuff that's not here, you get to write your own notes. Most of the learning I've ever learned in my life came from my notes, not what's in the handout. What's in the handout is very little of what a capable instructor is able to deliver. This is the minimum. What I'm sharing with you right now, the anecdotes, the examples, all this discussion is going to be more helpful down the road when you look at the paper than what you see in the paper. That's all I'm telling you. So next time, I hope, inshallah, to see every one of you just taking notes. So again, the focus of this course, the Quantum Leap, is to bring clarity and functionality to words and definitions. So we're going to be pulling out certain words, and I'm going to be explaining to you what they mean in this context. The words, like the word perspective, for instance. These are words in the language that we hardly ever use, but even if we use it, we're going to attach new connotations to it. Like in Islam, we have a zakah, which means tahara, but it also means a certain amount you pay as fard. You know, this is part of the al-arkan al-khams, ita al-zakah, right? So we're going to be talking about that, to bring practicality and to build usable models or roadmaps for your life, worth living, on purpose, direction, personal power. The sheer mirror of it all, look at this, is that most people just accept a theme, journey, and roadmap or parts that they inherit. Most people live a life they inherited from whom? Where do we get our lifestyle from? Parents. And you don't have to answer, but how many of you honestly can say with surety and confidence that their parents lived a full, self-actualized life, perfect life? I'm the first one to tell you they didn't. My mother died at age 59. Okay? I don't think she saw much of anything in her life. She just struggled to put food on the table with my father. There was 7 of us. And my father, he died at age 87, but for the last 30 years or so, he's been in bed. Most of our parents are like that, unfortunately. Maybe not your parents, your grandparents, maybe, I don't know. Hopefully your parents are in better shape. The point I'm trying to say is that we inherited a model for how to live our life that is flawed. And nobody questions it. We just accept it. Yeah.
Maybe it's with like,
Okay.
you know, like maybe he was done and she was happy.
You know how you know? You know how you know? I don't mean to offend anybody, but one way you know is if they are growing. One way you know that people are living a good life is when they're growing. And I don't mean growing wealth-wise only. I don't mean intellectually. I don't mean socially. I mean all of it. When you see a person, my wife, we've been retired now for 13 years. My wife's biggest complaint is that she feels she's not growing. And I'm constantly trying to explain to her or give her suggestions on how she can grow. She thought about becoming a psychiatrist, a social psychologist, to take some certification to help people, because she's constantly on the phone helping relatives and daughters and nephews and nieces, young people like yourselves. They live. They have a life. They have husbands and daughters and sons, and they have issues. And who do they go to? They go to my wife. So she's doing something, but she feels she could do more. So you see what I'm saying? I never felt that my mother, rahimahullah, died at age 59. I never felt that she was growing. She was always maintaining a perfect life for us, making sure we ate and dressed and went to school. And everything for us was perfect. But for her, it's like there's nothing else for her to do. You see what I'm talking about here? What I'm talking about is not whether she's content or not. You're not talking about she's happy. You're saying content. So if somebody feels that way, so here's my comment on this. If somebody comes to this course, and I've had, like I said, thousands of them. Wallahi, in one class, 400. Okay? There are some that you see them break down in tears right in front of you. I always had tissue boxes. Because there's an exercise that we do, and I may do it with you here. It's called the legacy letter. And I basically, at some point, challenge people to imagine that they're dead, that they died, and that somebody is writing their obituary. Herein lies Fulan Fulani, who lived a good life, did this and did that, and made this difference, and so on. So I tell people, pull yourself out of your body, stand on the side, look at your body laying on the table, and write your obituary. Let's see what you write. Wallahi, after the first or the second sentence, you see people sobbing. Because all of a sudden, their life is passing in front of them like a movie screen. And they start realizing how much they would have loved to have done that they didn't do, how much regret they have, how much issues they have. So the point I'm trying to say is that nobody trains us to look at our life from that angle. You understand? Nobody. We don't talk to our kids and say, if you died one day, what would you want your people to write on your tombstone? We don't say that. We don't talk this language. We don't talk about death. We say, oh, la samahullah, bid shar. We always talk about death as if it's like far, far away. It could be right around the corner. I could step out of the parking lot and get hit and die right now. There's no guarantee. No, my point is there's no guarantee. So why do we shy away from talking about things like that? Forget about, I don't want to be too morbid and talk about death. Let's talk about success and failure. Whoever talks to you about failing, have you ever taken a class, a course in school called Failure 101 and what to do about it? Anybody? Honestly, don't you think we need Failure 101 more than we need Success 101? There's a million ways you can succeed, but to fail, you have to do a few things really good to guarantee that you fail. Not too many. I can put them for you in a list of maybe less than 10 things. I can teach you a few things that if you follow and you do, guaranteed you will fail miserably. What if you say to me, well, I don't want to fail? Well, then learn them and don't do them. It's called the victim mentality, okay? We're going to cover that. If you live your life acting like a victim all the time, you are destroying yourself. But nobody ever tells you that. Relax, when people see you acting like a victim, like, they come and say, oh, it's okay, it's going to be better. And they actually try to make you feel better, and they reinforce your victim behavior. Whoa. You see what I'm saying? So instead of teaching ourselves how to succeed, Ya Jama'ah, let me tell you a story. You know Mohammad Abbasi, you hear in history about, or if you ever visited Turkey, you hear about Mohammad Abbasi, Sultan Mohammad Abbasi, the one who conquered Constantinople, okay? One of the greatest sultans of the Ottoman Empire. When he was a kid, his mother used to take him and let him look at Constantinople, at the walls of Constantinople. And she would say to him, one day, we're going to breach that wall and we're going to liberate that city. And I hope one day you'll be the one to do it. You see, the companions of the Prophet, they used to teach their kids when they were little. They used to teach them the stories of the great and how they became great. Nowadays, we let them read Huckleberry Finn. We let them we let them watch Paw Patrol and superheroes and all of this. Are you kidding me? This is what we teach our kids? Where are they going to learn Izzah from? Look, how many of you agree with me that we need to harness more power as a community? And when I say community, I'm not talking just about the Muslim community. I'm talking about women, for instance. Do you think women are treated unfairly, yes or no? In general, black, white, African American, Muslim, non-Muslim, yes or no? Okay. So you're a minority. Do you feel that you don't have enough power. Everybody wants more power, but we don't know how to get it. You know how you get power? By having pride. Not false pride. Proud to be Irish, proud to be Egyptian, proud to be Palestinian, proud. Bumper stickers, right? That makes you proud? You know what makes you proud? What gives you izzah? When you learn the stories of Muhammad al-Fatih. When you learn the stories of our ancestors and what they did. The other day I was giving khutbah in Rockland County. I need to wrap up. I'll end with this story. And in the room, there was the chief of police, there was a judge, and there was another administrator, 3 government officials. Somehow they wanted to come in and express their support for the Muslim community. We're all with you. We're going to send all the cops to the synagogue, but we're going to come here and say to you, you know, we're with you. That's fine. So in my khutbah, I don't care. If Biden was sitting there, my khutbah is my khutbah. I don't change it for anyone. So in the khutbah, I said the following. I said, we as an ummah have suffered a lot. Maybe not as bad as now. The ummah right now is at the lowest point in its history, by the way. We can discuss this later. But we've been there. We had low points. One of the lowest points was when Baghdad was run over by the Mongol. It was in the year 1258, Miladi. Remember those numbers, 1258. That year, Baghdad was leveled to the ground. Baghdad was the capital of the world. Folks, you need to hear this. There was no city on earth that had 3 million people except Baghdad. London, the capital of Iraq. That's where my wife was born and raised. My wife is from Baghdad, and I visited Baghdad in 1980. I had dinner with my wife. We were engaged at that time. Actually, we did Katwik Tabs, so her father would let me go out with her. So we went out on top of the world on that funduk. I think it was called Mansour or Rashid, one of those. You guys believe that in 1980, they had a restaurant that was revolving like Windows on the World? Wallahi. And we ate filet mignon. And Billy Joel was singing, don't go changing, trying to please. I'm like, wow, this is Baghdad in 1980. That's 40 some years ago. They destroyed it as sin, and they sent it back almost 200 years. So the Mongols did the same thing. They took all the books. The amount of knowledge that was thrown in the river it's mind-boggling. No city on earth had more libraries and books, hundreds of thousands of books, at a time when Europe would, you know, in Europe, when people came from Aleppo or from Damascus or from Khorasan, from one of those countries, ships, when a ship landed in England, in London, their ticket to land, instead of duty or tax or whatever, was a must to bring a manuscript from the Orient. A book, even if it's 5 pages. The Oxford University Library is full of books written in Arabic that made the majority of the literature and books of science and math and physics and everything. And I have pictures of them. A friend of mine got his PhD in 91 in Oxford, and he went in with an Instamatic and took pictures of them. That's how advanced Baghdad was, and it was destroyed. So that's the bad news. What's the good news, brother? The good news is 4 years later, the Sultan of Egypt died. His wife was a very smart lady. Her name was Shajarat ad-Durr. The word Shajara means tree. Ad-Durr, with Durar, means pearls, I think. Ahjar Karim. So Shajarat ad-Durr means a pearl of a tree. I don't know how to translate it, but that's Shajarat ad-Durr. That's her name. So what do you think she did? Egypt was being attacked by the French from the Mediterranean, and the Mongols were coming. They had destroyed the entire Middle East. They destroyed every city in their path. After Baghdad, they went after Damascus and Aleppo and Hama and all of them. And they were coming to Egypt. They knew it was a matter of time. So the front line for Egypt was Palestine. Most Egyptian battles were fought in Palestine. Napoleon was defeated in Akka. You see? So most battles fought by the Egyptians were fought in Palestine. So what does Shajrat al-Dur do? She knew if she announced to the world that the Sultan had died, it would be chaos. His son is only 16. He's a kid. He wouldn't know how to control the army. So what did she do? She acted as if the Sultan was still alive. She hid the news of his death. And she went to the biggest generals in the army, two, Qutuz and the Zahir papers. And she made a deal with them. She said, you need to put together a huge army and march towards Palestine and stop those Mongols. And they said, our treasury is bankrupted. She got Al-Izz ibn Abd al-Salam, one of the greatest scholars in Islamic history, by al-Muluk. She went to Al-Izz ibn Abd al-Salam. She got fatwa from him to add an extra tax levy on society, specifically to be used to prepare the army. So that took care of the money. Number two, Al-Izz ibn Abd al-Salam gave a fatwa that would pass the Sultan title to Qutuz instead of her son, who's 16 years old, because he was a kid. He couldn't handle the responsibilities. Shajarat al-Dur agreed. And Qutuz and Zahir papers put together a plan, marched to Palestine, met the Mongol in Ain Jalut, and defeated them. And it was the first time they were stopped. Here's the best part. After they were defeated, they all became Muslim. Not the Mamalik from Egypt. The Mongols that came to kill Muslims and chew their ears, they became Muslim. They embraced Islam. Never in society, in history, has a conquering nation adopted the values of the conquered nation. It never happened. The people were not religious. They had no deen. So they came in, they saw how Muslims behave with each other, and said, oh, this is cool, we'll be Muslims too. They became Muslims. The only conquering army in the world to ever defeat entire ummah and embrace its faith and become part of it and melt in it was the Mongols when they came to Islam. Isn't that amazing? So why am I sharing this with you? Ain Jalut is one of the greatest 10 battles in history. I didn't say that. The judge that was sitting there, he came to me, shook my hand, and he said, I've never heard anybody talk about Ain Jalut. He's an American judge. He said, Ain Jalut is one of the 10 most important battles in history. I said, I know. I know who led it. I know how they were defeated. I know the whole story. So for an American to know Ain Jalut, now how many of our kids know Ain Jalut? How many know that Ain Jalut took place exactly 4 years after the fall of Baghdad? That's the part you need to hear. 4 years. Think. How many think that after what's going on right now, in a year or 2 or 5 or 10 or 20, there would be liberation of Palestine or something like that? You see, why we don't think like that? Because we don't know our history. So here's the next component you need for power. I said power comes from what? From pride or izzah, right? Izzah comes from where? From knowledge. Not useless knowledge, real good knowledge. Knowledge that makes you feel like we're cool. Like our history is something to be proud of. Wallahi, the judge even told me, he said, what amazes me more is what Salah ad-Din did. And I said, yeah, isn't that amazing? He said, it's amazing that after the Crusaders slaughtered 90,000 Muslims in Masjid al-Aqsa, did you ever know that? He gave amnesty to 90,000 Muslims and Christians, that if they went to Masjid al-Aqsa, they will be safe. Once they gathered them, they slaughtered them, every single one of them. And we know this from the letters they wrote back home. They wrote letters back to Europe. And in European libraries, you can see Crusaders' letters. And in it, they say, oh, my horse was sinking Muslim blood up to its knees. This is the kind of nonsense they were writing back about, and we get to read about it. They did all of that. Salah ad-Din comes, and he says to them, I have no business killing you, after he conquered them in the Battle of Hattin. So he says to them, just pay a little duty so that we can clean up after you and go back where you came from. All the wealthy ones had no problem. They were rich crusaders. Oh, okay, here, 1,000 dinars, 500 dinars, whatever, they paid. All the poor Christians had nothing to give. So what would Salah ad-Din do? He paid on their behalf and made them go. He only killed one person. One king who was in Jordan, in Karak, Medina al-Karak, and he would attack the pilgrim caravans, and torture them. He killed Salah ad-Din's sister, okay? But he killed him not because his sister was killed, but because he butchered the pilgrims, and they're supposed to be saved. So he brought him and he chopped his head off. And this judge knew that. He said, I can't believe that with all of this huge victory that Salah ad-Din had, he only killed one person. And the rest, he set them free and sent them back to Europe. You need to know this history. You need to learn this history. You need to be proud of your history. And if somebody says anything otherwise, tell them, look, we didn't start First World War. We didn't start pogroms. We didn't start Second World War. We didn't annihilate half of Africa. We didn't kill 100 million Native Americans in America. We didn't kill, God knows, maybe 200 million in South America. We didn't do any of that stuff. You did that to yourselves. And you can never say that if you didn't know. So you want to be powerful? Be proud. You want to be proud? Study your history. That brings us back to all of this. So going forward, I'm going to be talking about, for instance, making the learning process the foundation for your success plan. And you're going to say, oh, but I'm a learner. Really? So what do? You read a little something here, and you sit through a lecture there, and every once in a while you have a discussion. But do you know that there's higher and higher and higher and higher levels? There's at least 10 levels of learning. The highest level of learning, and I'll end with this statement, is what I'm doing right now, is when you're teaching. The highest level of learning is teaching. If you want to learn the Palestinian cause, for instance, teach it. For you to learn it by yourself, it's not enough. Find a few people younger than you, hopefully, or whatever, who know less than you. Sit them down and say, let me tell you about 1948. Let me tell you about Sykes-Picot. Let me tell you about this. Let me tell you about Thawra al-Arabiya al-Kubra. Let me tell you. And before you know it, that's how I learn. People call me like the encyclopedia. I'm not an encyclopedia. It's just that I love to teach. I'm a teacher at heart. The reason I got my PhD is I wanted to teach. I wanted to teach. And I do teach. But I'm not enjoying it as much as talking to people like you. Because over there, I got politicians and I got, employees that want to get an A and go get a promotion. I want to talk to people and touch their life with this stuff. And hopefully, it's you. So Jazakumullah khair for listening. If anybody has a question or two, we'll wrap it up, inshallah. Yeah. علم. Any questions?